Eyes on Media. This is Coming Out Stories. It's a podcast about one of the most important conversations of your life. I'm Emma Goswell. Watch out for the swearing, because here comes Jackie Hagan, poet, comedian and theatre maker. She grew up in Skelmersdale in northwest England, and just wait till you hear about her first childhood crushes. I think she's the first person that's ever talked to me about being attracted to an inanimate object. Have a listen to this.
Well, I always tick the bisexual box, literally, but there's more to identification than that, isn't there? I like the word queer. I identify with it in lots of ways. If you use queer as a verb, queer just meaning, like, fucking things up, like, in a sort of a clever, sort of anarchic way, like, you know, doing it wrong, but in a sort of purposeful, good way. So, like, doing girl wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like, I do girl wrong, or doing crip wrong, like, doing disabled wrong, so that people can't see me, can they? So I've got one leg, and so I fuck that up. I do, instead of being like oh, God, I've got one leg up on me, or, you know, whatever, like, the thing that people expect you to be, I do, like, stunt puppetry, and you'd, like, you know, you've got to guess what celebrity it is and what have you. So it's like that, queering things is to fuck shit up in a really good way, so mess them up and, like, so usurp expectation.
So that's your favourite adjective then, basically?
Yeah, so that's what I'd call, I like calling myself queer, because that's what I'm about in loads of ways. So I like that, but then sometimes when you say queer, people are like, what does she really mean? What's a real sexuality? As if it's like an umbrella term that means nothing. Like, I don't think that. I love it. So then you're like, yeah, all right, yeah, you just want to know what genitals I'm into, don't you? That's what people mean sometimes.
I guess they do.
Yeah. So all of them. And then there's problems with bisexual, isn't there, the word now?
Is there? So what's the problem with bisexual? I mean, a lot of people now are saying pansexual as opposed to bisexual, who maybe in the past might have said bisexual, do you think?
Yeah, there's a big shift, isn't there? So the problem with the word bisexual, so people are getting a cob on with it. Oh, there might be people that aren't from Skem and Wigan listening. Cob on means, like, get narky, get a cob on. Get angry is what I mean. People get a cob on with the word bisexual because of bi meaning two. So people like that means that you only like men and women, and by that they mean you hate trans people, or you are anti-non-binary. So that's absolute bollocks. You know, historically, bisexual people have been trans a lot of the time, and being bisexual was this sort of liminal space. It's not like, oh, you're bisexual, so you've got twice the amount of acceptance. Gay people hate you, straight people hate you. You know, generally people just keep the fucking head down, which I don't. Yeah, so historically it's like being bisexual is like, right, I don't care about being accepted by any of the groups of people, which is true as well of being non-binary and being trans and, you know, occupying all them spaces. So it's bullshit that just because the prefix bi means two means that people can really, like, sort of fixate on that rather than going, oh, do you know what, this represents people, and people are more complicated than that.
By definition, you probably would identify as being pan, but you're just quite happy using bisexual still, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I just like the underdog. I just want to defend the word bisexual, really, so I'll stick with it. And also, it's like, I just sort of fought for it inside my head and outside of my head, because it's yourself as well, isn't it? Fought for it for so long, I'm not about to just give it up, you know? So I'll just fight the case for it.
Fair enough, because do you know what? There's a lot of bisexuals out there, but they're quite hard to find. Not enough people put their head over the parapet and go, yes, me, I'm bisexual.
Well, exactly, yeah. And especially when you've got a bit of a platform if you perform in some sort of sense, because you don't, you know, that's your job, innit? You've got to pay the rent with that. So if you're like, oh, yeah, and I'm bisexual, and you lose the gays and you lose the straights, you fucked, aren't you? So, like...
So at what stage...
I see why people do it. I'm totally sympathetic to it.
So at what stage did you sort of come to the conclusion that you were bisexual? What was the sort of realisation process?
Well, my first crush was multiple. It was on... Do you remember Linda Lusardi?
Yeah.
Like page 3 girl.
Underwear model.
I wasn't very politically correct when I was 2. Yeah, underwear model. Glamour model,
yeah.
And Rambo. You know, Rambo, the character.
Actual Rambo?
Actual Rambo, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And Boy George. So take that, Kinsey. You know, it was, you know, there's
those were the people you fancied
that was
as a youngster.
First crush in one go. And my mum's, big massive tape deck You can tell from the way I said that then, that I sort of found a big, massive tape deck. Ghetto blaster.
A ghetto blaster? What about the ghetto blaster?
That was in there with the group. I had a crush on the ghetto blaster as well.
Okay, well, this is moving into a whole new sphere. Were you one of those people that fancy inanimate objects as well?
Well, it was just two. I was just so, I didn't have any, I think I haven't changed that much since I was 2. I've lived quite a hard life, but in another way, quite a charmed life, because I've never really been socialised. You know, I've never had an office job. I had mad parents who were great. I was never really told off for fancying a ghetto blaster, so I never stopped it.
Quite fair enough, Jackie.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
You're the first person that's come out to me as fancying an inanimate object, and I like you for that.
I didn't know that your sexuality was to do with your minge at that age.
Well, no, I suppose as a child you wouldn't know, would you really? So when was the first time you sort of articulated it then and said maybe to your family or someone that you knew?
It was during the adverts in Brookside.
Uh-huh.
And I'd been getting the balls up for ages. Well, actually, I suppose it was to my brother and then to my parents. And I didn't say to them, Mum, Dad, I'm bisexual, because it sounds too sexual. You know, like even just saying the word something sexual to your mum and dad feels embarrassing. Yeah. I was 13 as well. You're just embarrassed of everything then, aren't you? So I said, at the girl that I was seeing, I said, oh, that's not my friends, that's my girlfriend.
You had a girlfriend at 13?
Yeah, but she didn't really like me. So that's why I skipped over her name then, because I felt embarrassed.
So what, you were having a relationship at 13?
No, not really.
Really.
It was...
But you liked her?
I live in a world of delusion. It's like, even to do this interview, I've had to go, hang on, what's the reality of this? Because when you're a writer and performer, you rewrite like the narratives of your own life because you're using it, you think about the audience. You're going to go, hang on, what really happened?
So at 13, there was a girl at school, presumably, that you liked. And did you tell her that you liked her?
No. But I was 13. I liked everyone. I think what it is that my sexuality has always been, like, I want the illicit thing. I want the thing I'm not meant to do. I went to Catholic school, so maybe that's part of it. So... you're not meant to go out with women. But then once I was, like, very established in, like, the lesbian community, it's like, oh, you're allowed to go out with women now. So that's not fun anymore. But lesbians hate you shagging men, so let's go and do that. And then once it was like, oh, Jackie's just bisexual. Oh, okay. So now I'm allowed to shag everyone. And so where do I go now?
So did you really get flack from lesbians then for
a little
dating
bit?
men?
Yeah. I was quite an angry sort of 20-something. So you get more people looking at each other rather than saying anything to your face, because I was quite a narky cow then. I wasn't this wonderful, charming thing you see me doing that. Of course, you get loads of, like, biphobia. I got threatened and stuff. I'd perform at Pride and do stuff about bisexuality. And I got, like, threatened in a beer garden. I mean, when I say threatened, I mean, you know when you think, oh, my God, I'm going to get my head kicked in here. Usually you get... annoyance and, like, some gay people getting annoyed at you for being in queer spaces or existing in general, and then you get, like, straight people are like think that it means that you're kinky and you want to fuck the girlfriends while I watch. So
why is it so difficult for people to comprehend? I've never really understood this.
Because it's just put out there. People love binaries, don't they? People are obsessed with, like, extremes. The idea that the world and people are just very grey area and that everything's fluid scares the shit out of people. Because humans need to categorise things.
Well, it's always like, pick a side, any side. It's like, why?
Exactly.
Why can't you be in the
just
middle?
make for you feel comfortable. It's like, just fought Liverpool Everton. Don't give a shit. Choose one. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very similar to the football analogy. Yeah, it's interesting, and I know that biphobia exists. I've certainly dated a lot of bisexual women over the years, and I have had a lot of lesbian friends turn around and go, "Oh, Emma, why are you bothering?"
Yeah,
you know, and the assumption is, you know, they'll never commit to you because in the end of the day, they will go off and find a man. That's the assumption. And then I guess in the straight world, the assumption is from men that you're going to go off and leave them for a woman. So you can't really win,
men
can you?
Just want you to have kinky sex. But yeah, there is that, yeah.
Yeah, difficult, isn't it? So you haven't told me yet the conversation over Brookside. What happened during the advert?
Of course. So let's go, back in time. And they were just like, okay. I wasn't a difficult kid, but I was fucking whimsical. You know, I thought I could fly. I thought I was immortal, all this mad shit. So they were just like, okay. I think they thought it was a phase, but because I was a phasey kid, not because they were pricks. And they're not pricks.
But you said you couldn't say you were bisexual, so how did you phrase it? What did you say?
I said, she's my girlfriend. Yeah. But then you started talking about, was she really your girlfriend? And I started blushing, even though it was like 20 years ago. Then you have to keep coming out, don't you? So it was years. I was being bisexual. I would say I was bisexual to other people, you know. And then I went to university, and I was so excited about joining in. It was just the LGB then. That makes me feel old. I was so excited about being around queer people. And then I got there, and it was like, oh, okay. You know, your survival instinct sets in, doesn't it? And you're like, fuck, I should say I'm a lesbian. So then I said I was a lesbian for years to try and fit in with these people. I never fitted in with anyway.
So what, you don't think
it was more of a class thing than a sexuality thing, but anyway.
You didn't think they'd accept you if you said that you were bi?
No, definitely not.
Gosh. Well, you say you're old. When I went to university, I'm that old. It was just the Lesbian and Gay Society. I didn't even know
it was just LG.
It was the L&G, yeah. I had to make them change it. That was in Liverpool.
Really?
In the early 90s, yeah. Liverpool Polytechnic Students' Union, Lesbian and Gay Society. And I made them change it to bisexual.
Did you?
Yeah, because I came out as bisexual first.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And then I thought, well, I'm not really.
Yeah.
I just decided, just because I've had a couple of boyfriends doesn't really make me bisexual.
Yeah.
I tried them out. Didn't really fit. Didn't work for me.
I think that's the thing as well, is that people don't know what the definition of bisexual is, do they? So they don't know if they're allowed to call themselves it. So they go, oh, better not. I know what gay is, I know what lesbian is. I better leave that dodgy one alone. Whereas in reality, it's like you can call yourself, you know, you fancy one man and all the women in the world bisexual, fine.
Yeah, exactly. I still fancy David Beckham on occasion. Maybe I'm still bisexual.
Maybe you are. Yeah.
It's forever changing, isn't it, really?
Exactly, yeah.
It doesn't have to stick to one thing, though, does it? That's, like we say, it's a lot more fluid than people...
I think it's, you know, when people go, oh, I don't like labels, and I used to hate that because I was like, I'm fucking fighting for this label, mate. But I think it's a lot of them people have just realised that everything's fluid and that it doesn't fucking matter that much. And in terms of, like, just accept everyone. But the thing is that if you're not banging on about labels, then you can't fight for it. So there needs to be a kind of a campaign. There needs to be a banner that is like, fucking calm down, accept everyone. Maybe something a bit shorter than that.
That's not so snappy, is it, really? So have you dated both men and women? And how's it panned out either way? Has men...
Panned out.
No pun intended.
Well, it's more about dating straight. I've never dated a bisexual woman, I don't think. Yeah, so I've dated lesbians, butch lesbians, brilliant. That was like my bread and butter, you know.
Right, okay.
And then bisexual men, I get that. That makes sense to me. That's kind of my bread and butter. Now I'm dating a straight man. He's not just a straight man. He is straight, middle class. He's got a 9-to-5, able-bodied, neurotypical white middle class man. What the fuck? But you
sound like you're feeling disappointed in yourself, Jackie.
I am so disappointed in myself. I'm disappointed in him. I've been trying to convince him. But like even on coke, he's not everyone. You can turn anyone with cocaine, can't you? But like he's even straight then. It's disgusting.
And have you had to tell him that you are bisexual and a lot of your other relationships have been with women?
I'm out there, aren't I? Just the idea of going like, oh, by the way, I need to tell you something, I'm bisexual. I mean, the idea that you might assume that I'm straight.
Well, let me just say, you're sat here with your rainbow-coloured hair and your sort of stars and rainbow tattoos all over your body as well. So
and also all the wear, me as well as dead queer, so...
That's true.
Yeah, and I think maybe just the way I approach... I don't know, talking to him and stuff like that.
Has he ever mentioned it, or you've had any conversations about it?
Yeah,
Really?
I mean, I sort of bang on about it a lot. Like, by erasure, like when it's on TV. You know, when the media gathers someone up into, like, gay or straight, or on, like, a telly programme, and they'll say this, oh, they must be gay because they've just kissed a man. You know, I've kind of, not staunchly, but he just notices that now because he has to, because I'm there watching the telly with him. But yeah, I do sort of go on about about it. He did say early days, he said something that was like, you don't need a community because you can join in either one. And I was like, no, don't you think it would be lovely to me to have my own community? Like, that would be amazing to have, like, my own bisexual culture. Like, because when you go to Pride, it's like, oh, okay, rainbow flag isn't mine. And then it's like straight stuff makes me sick because it's all so amazingly mainstream and the presumptions that it makes us about people and heteronormative and ugh. So he got telling off for that.
Because they do have a biphoria, don't they? There is
there is
Pride events.
And BiCon is like a conference every year. So there is stuff. I mean, to be honest, what I've done now is I've realised that I'm not massively keen. Oh, this is excellent. Now, the next paragraph is an excellent way to isolate myself from everyone. Let's just alienate everyone. I don't really like gay culture. Like, I mean, like mainstream gay culture that's based on going out and clubbing. I'm too fucking old and like lame now. Like,
but I don't think a lot of people do.
And I don't really like straight culture, and I've realised I'm not massively keen on bi culture. So I was like, oh, okay, so I guess I'll just have a community of my own little weirdos.
You just have to stay at home more, Jackie.
I am doing, yeah.
Have you ever had any sort of tricky times coming out to people?
Not so much now, because it was more in early days. Where I'm from, Scam, is... It's
just for our foreign listeners, Skelmersdale in northwest England.
Yeah, because that'll clear it up, won't it? It's like a little, it's rough, it's very, very small, and everyone has got a cap on with the trackies tucked into the socks. You know, it's very samey. And so I couldn't find, like, my people, I couldn't find my weirdos, I needed to find more weirdos there. So it was really sad and isolated and mentally fucked up when I was there about sexuality and about just being very separate. And
so you felt very alone?
Yeah, totally, yeah. I didn't know that it would be okay one day. I didn't know that I'd be able to go on stage and find my weirdos, and, you know, I just thought, this is it. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to fall in love, all of that stuff. And all just, like, internalised biphobia stuff, internalised homophobia, all the stuff that you start out with because, you know, the society teaches you it.
It's funny, isn't it? A lot of people say this. You know, there's so much sort of shame and angst and feeling isolated. And when you're that young, you just can't see a future where that's going to change, can you really? And it seems like the worst place and the worst thing in the world, doesn't it?
I think that it helps if there's stuff on telly, you know? If you see stuff like Divine David, who's this, bloody hell, I just described Divine David as like a sort of drag artist, but a very arty, weird as fuck one.
He's the king of avant-garde.
Totally, but the kind of avant-garde that would be on Channel 4. So he
did have a Channel 4 show at one point.
Yeah, well, that was when I was like about 13 or 14 maybe. Yeah, and I'd tape it off the telly. I wasn't the type in the type of households where you had to hide it from your mum and dad, because mum and dad were, you know, just fine and crazy, but it did still feel like this little precious thing because wider society wasn't liking it, so it was still kind of hidden and a bit of a lifeline, really, because I saw Boy George and I was made up with Boy George, but he wasn't screaming at the world, and I needed someone who was screaming at the world, which Divine David is.
I thought you'd say someone like Ellen, but no, you weren't going to pick someone as mainstream as that, were you, really? But that was a big deal in the 90s, though, when she came out in her sitcom. It was a huge deal. She lost her job over it.
Did she?
Yeah, the sitcom ended, didn't it? So, I mean, now she's got all this success that she's got because she fought for change, basically. She had to go through the rejection and the
Mine was Beth Jordache. That was my Ellen.
I'm going to impress.
That was massive.
I'm going to impress you now.
What?
I'm going to tell you something.
You've got offered Beth Jordache?
No. I'm going to tell you that I was the lesbian storyline advisor to Brookside.
Fuck you! My God!
I was.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I know the person who did the incest storyline as well. I met her the other day.
Okay.
Sorry, no, that's different. But
that wasn't me. No, I'm not an expert on incest, but I am an expert on lesbians.
But both storylines were excellent. Wow. So did you write? So hang on, you were a consultant on what lesbianism is, so that they could could kiss in a fucking hallway.
Yeah.
In some Christmas jumpers.
Okay, I'll tell you what happened, Jackie. I was the publications officer of Liverpool Students' Union, and the researchers at Brookside rang the Students' Union women's officer saying, have you got any lesbians we can speak to? 'Cause we've got this big lesbian storyline and we don't know anything about lesbian culture. And she went, I do know one.
That's really good that they did that, though.
Yeah, so I had to go down to this meeting, but it was really almost difficult because I was sat there at this massive, big, long table at Mersey TV, and these two women were sat there at the opposite end of this massive table. It's hilarious, and I'm like, but how do we show Beth Jordache as a young woman questioning her sexuality without actually ever saying it? And I was like, I don't know. Could she be reading Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit?
Yeah, yeah.
Could she be reading a copy of the Pink News, which in those days was a newspaper? So yeah, I advised them on that. And then
what did she do?
I can't remember. I think she might have seen some newspapers or something. But also, I then said to them, right, because this is the days way prior to apps or dating stuff, like she'll need to go out and go to a gay club because that's what you do.
Oh my God, remember your heart and your throat thinking everyone can see you walking down the street from a mile away going lesbian. Yeah, God. So I sort of miss that absolute fear in a way. Not fear, but the excitement of the early days.
And you go to a gay nightclub for the first time. So I said to Mersey TV, you're going to have to do a scene where she goes to a gay nightclub because she needs to go out on the pool and find a woman, basically, is what I said to them. And I said, and when you do that, I will supply you with proper LGBT extras to put in the club so it doesn't look like wrong. And I did. And my friend Steve kissed his boyfriend in the background, and that again was one of the first gay male kisses on TV. But no one ever talks about that because they were just in the background.
Because it was in the background.
Because it was just in the background. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he kissed his boyfriend Gareth at the time.
Oh.
And it was in this awful. It was obviously a pub in the middle of the day somewhere in Liverpool. I can't remember where.
Yeah.
But I was the most popular person in Liverpool because we got paid £50 a day to be an extra, and they got bacon butties.
Not much more than that now, actually. Yeah.
So,
God, I'm really, really impressed by that. That's
I told you
exciting.
I've totally digressed, and it's supposed to be about you, but I thought you'd be.
Where did she meet the other one, the ginger one?
Well, Margaret was
Nicola Sturgeon. I fancied her. I remember her name. You couldn't Google
Sturgeon,
women this day. Oh no, Nicola Sturgeon's a politician, isn't she?
Yes, she's the head of the Scottish Nationalist Party.
Can't remember her.
No, she was called Nicola though. Yeah, and because she lived on the Close as well, didn't she?
I can't remember.
Oh, she lived somewhere around Brookside Close, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, those were the days. Aww. But you're right, it does make a difference having LGBT characters on the TV.
Did she murder the dad before or after she was a lesbian?
No, I did not advise that their first lesbian character should then become a murderer. Yeah. I did not advise that. Can I just point that out? Yeah.
I don't think that's sort of weird homophobia. I think it's just Brookside, and a lot is going to happen every day, hasn't it?
Someone's got to get buried under the patio.
Someone's going to be on a roof on fire. Yeah.
So, Jackie, if you had any advice to impart to any current Jackies who are
it's all
young and innocent
now, isn't it? It's all different with the internet. I think that maybe because of the internet and because there's so much identity politics out there, because I imagine what I'd feel if there was that when I was 13, is that you've got to be able to understand it all, because sometimes I see kids and they're talking in quite academic language, or they're really doing down other people who don't know something that they've just learnt a minute ago. You know, I think it's good that kids are really ethical now, but this sort of cancel culture and stuff, I'd be shitting myself of saying anything on the internet if I was 13 and queer. So I'd say just sort of step away from that and just figure out what you are in your heart, authentically what you really are, and then go out and fall in love 17 times and, break your heart into 1,000 pieces. You'll be fine. You'll find another one.
You won't think you're fine at the time, but you will get over it eventually. But yeah, broken hearts do heal. But you're right. It's about acknowledging it yourself in the first place, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Don't think you've got to know, exactly what you are when you're fucking 11, for God's sake, yeah.
A massive thank you to the hilarious Jackie Hagan, who still remains the only person I've ever seen drink champagne out of their own prosthetic leg. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you want to find out more about this podcast, perhaps ask us a question or even offer yourself up for an interview, well, you can follow us at Come Out Stories on Twitter or Coming Out Stories Pod on Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Emma Goswell, and Coming Out Stories is a What Goes On media production. Next time round, you'll hear from Ed. He's a writer and an LGBT travel expert from Boston, but he kept his sexuality a secret until he was inspired to come out by other students at Harvard.
I always thought you kind of had to apologize for being gay, but they kind of taught me, no, you don't. And this one, William from Iowa, but a small town in Iowa, like population 5,000, a rural community, but his parents are super progressive. So he came out when he was 12 to them in Iowa, and they supported him. And when he was my friend in college, I thought, if he can do it, I can do it in Boston, at Harvard, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, for God's sake.